You wouldn't think there's a hope of that red going.
This week we're looking for the best shots from the Northern Ireland Open, and there were so many great shots from this tournament I had difficulty fitting them all into one video, and they just keep getting harder towards the end. But despite that, I'm still looking to recreate them as accurately as possible and then play them in the fewest possible attempts. But of course we're starting with Judd Trump, who played so many fantastic shots on the way through to winning the tournament that I could have made an entire video with just shots from Judd himself. With this one I need to stun the cue ball around the angles of right hand side to get back for a red on the top cushion. It was thinner than I thought it was going to be, but I was pretty confident if I potted the black I'd get the white in the right place. And I did, so this was a good start and maybe a little bit easier than I thought. That was relatively straightforward, so let's ramp up the difficulty a lot now with this David Gilbert shot down the cushion where he's trying to dig his way out of trouble. To be fair to Dave, there was a lot of ways that this could have worked, not just potting it directly, but that's exactly what we're trying to do, and that's not going to be easy. As you can see with my first few shots here, if you just get close to the pot, then a red is likely to head towards a pocket, and usually does. But at the same time I was struggling to get anywhere near potting this one direct, as I haven't got used to the repairs on my cue yet. So when it went in on my fifth attempt, I think this was just more lucky than anything else. After all that, I definitely need a more straightforward shot, so this long red from Jack Lisowski that he pots out of the jaws of the yellow pocket will have to do. Because compared to the upcoming shots, this one at least seems relatively simple, even though the cueing really isn't. Jack had a pretty decent tournament, but once again fell short of winning his first ever title after losing to Chris Wakelin in the semi-finals. But this was a pretty decent shot, and 3 attempts is about what I'd expect. Judd Trump's absolutely powering the brown into the middle pocket now, so he can force the cue ball in and out of bulk and back down the table for a red. As soon as I saw this shot, I was just wondering if it was going to be possible to play on my table. Well, I didn't have to wonder for long, because as it turned out, not really. Unlike some other shots, there isn't a lot I can do on my table here to make the cue ball go further. I must have tried this a further 10 times, but unfortunately I didn't do any better than my second attempt. Jimmy White has Anthony McGill in a really tough looking snooker now, but he still manages to play off 2 cushions and land perfectly on the red. As I was about to discover, this was a really awkward escape, especially on my table where the cushions don't slide so much. I was having to use a huge amount of right hand side to get down the table, avoiding the green and the brown. My first attempt wasn't anywhere near it, and my second attempt, where I loaded up the cue ball with loads of side spin, actually dropped me right on top of the red. Despite the excellent escape from Anthony, Jimmy still manages to poke the red in along the cushion, leaving himself this angle on the black to get down the table, where he executes the perfect cannon, leaving himself on the yellow. He manages to clear up from this position. It felt like the green was in the way on this shot, and on my first attempt I thought I'd been overcautious staying away from it, but I got the cannon perfectly, which I was pleased with. Next we have Stan Moody pulling a double into the corner pocket out of the air and leaving himself a good chance. Ultimately, Stan was able to win this match against Gary Wilson, making it all the way through to the 4th round. And this double is a little bit awkward because by the time it gets to the pocket, it's going in at quite a narrow angle. So I was pretty happy to get it after just 2 attempts, even though I did hit it a little bit slow. But this double on the brown from Judd Trump keeps him in the tournament against Noppon Saengkham, which he obviously eventually goes on to win. Considering Judd was able to win 22 matches in a row in the end, it was actually surprising how close some of them were. I don't think I set this double up in the right place though, and it should have had more angle. Though which was the cheekiest double, this or the Stan Moody one? Cue the music.
Both of these shots were good, but for different reasons. Stan's was tough but didn't really go anywhere, and Judd's was relatively simple but kept him in the tournament. So I'm giving them both 4 chilies, but because Judd's winning everything else at the moment, I'm making Stan this week's winner. Speaking of decisive shots, this long green from Shaun Murphy allows him to make the clearance and win a really close match against Marco Fu.
I'm not usually that confident stunning in long pots like this from distance, so I think I had to be pleased with the fact it went in straight away.
With excellent positional shots like this one, it was Chris Wakelin who managed to defeat Shaun Murphy in all of his cues in the end, before making it all the way to the final where he lost out to a seemingly unbeatable Judd Trump at the moment.
Chris was able to pod the last red, but unfortunately for him he ended up going in off in the middle pocket and losing the frame. However, as I said, he still went on to win the match. This shot was definitely a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, mostly because the pink was thinner than I initially thought. However, I definitely expected to get this a lot quicker than I actually did in the end, and it probably took a few more shots than what was necessary, and I was just about able to pot the red past the black in the end.
It was well-cued shots like this one from Noppon Saengkham that allowed him to get within 1 frame of defeating Judd Trump. However, I do think he was trying to cannon the red away from the blue here, but it's still a good shot anyway.
So this is just a well-executed screw shot, which my first attempt definitely wasn't. However, I managed to pot it on my second attempt, and with the help of a really clean cue ball, got all the way back into bulk.
It was long potting like this that allowed Andreas Petov to defeat the home favourite Mark Allen.
This turned into a really close match in the end, with Andreas only just winning out 4-3 after Mark Allen narrowly missed the last blue. But personally, I was really struggling to get close to this shot as I just couldn't seem to find the right angle. And that's probably because it's difficult to get the cue ball to come back far enough while striking the object ball thin enough at the same time, which meant I kept trying to hit it too straight and would inevitably find the wrong angle. I really struggled with this one, and it was a tough shot to get right. So I was just happy to see it disappear in the end, even if I did miss the cannon on the blue.
Now for a powerful and completely unnecessary Judd Trump exhibition shot on the blue.
Judd manages to play twice around the table with a lot of right-hand side, narrowly avoiding the pink to end up back in position on the yellow. To play this one, I needed to first make sure I could hit it hard enough. And I definitely could, but I needed to get the side spin right, otherwise I'd keep ending up going in off like this. And it was difficult to get past the pink because this needed a lot of right-hand side on the cue ball. It really wasn't easy to spin the cue ball enough while striking it this hard, but eventually I managed to get it and ended up about in the same place as Judd.
Shaun Murphy with a well-played positional shot next. This one was actually a little bit harder than I was expecting it to be.
Because it looked like you just have to play twice across the table and get the weight right. But what I didn't notice is the shot was actually very straight, so you had to manufacture the angle with quite a bit of left-hand side, and that was quite difficult to get right, and unfortunately I kept under-hitting the shot. Not just once, but over and over again. I just couldn't seem to get enough pace on the cue ball while putting enough left-hand side on it at the same time, and I just couldn't believe the white kept going back in exactly the same place every single shot. Thankfully though, I did just about manage to hit one hard enough in the end that was just about good enough on the red for me to pot it down the cushion.
Arron Arron Hill's having to find a really creative way to pot the last red here, and he does so by using the black ball that's close to the corner pocket.
I usually find these shots quite challenging because you have to be a lot more precise than you first realise, because it looks like if you hit anywhere down the side cushion then the red's automatically going to go in past the black. But as I discovered, there's only a small part of the side cushion which you need to hit in order to pot the red off the black, so it took longer than expected.
Judd made an excellent clearance to go 5-2 in front of Chris Wakelin in the final, and this pink was probably the best shot of the entire break.
However, I didn't realise the pink was slightly off its spot, which made the shot a little bit easier, but either way I was still pretty happy to get it first time.
Jenson Kendrick was another player to make an excellent start against Judd, but unfortunately after this well-cued red, he lost his way a little bit and Judd got on a roll.
This is another shot where I'm being helped by a cue ball that's slightly shiny, but I still need to pot the red, and I was struggling to line this up properly for a few shots. I'm not sure why I was missing it by this far, but I corrected it pretty quickly, although I didn't get the cue ball back far enough.
Another sweetly struck red.
After his opponent, Cao Yupeng, was unlucky to knock the blue in after potting the ball he needed, Dylan Emery stepped up, potted the green, cannoned the brown away from the cushion and made the clearance to win the frame and match.
Under the circumstances, this looked a really well played shot, but it wasn't until I played it a few times I realised just how difficult both the pot and the cannon were to get together at the same point. I probably wouldn't have considered it such a good shot unless I'd actually tried it, and that considered 4 attempts was actually pretty good for this one.
Another good long pot from Shaun Murphy now in his win over Marco Fu. Digging down on the cue ball like this, it needed great cueing, however I'm not sure which cue he was using for this.
I don't know why he's using 3 different cues, so I'm not even going to try to explain it. However, the thing I think was a bit strange about this one is he could have got his hand flat on the table, but decided to dig down at it, which made the shot, I felt, a lot harder. It just seemed like if I'd got my hand flat on the table, I would have potted this one a lot sooner. However, the result on this wasn't too bad, I suppose.
The frame may well have already been over, but how about this for a red from Judd? It never leaves the rail all the way down.
And this one was a lot harder for me because I'm right-handed, and it meant I had to stretch across the table a lot to reach it.
That's not bad, is it? Hey? Jack Lisowski made it all the way through to the semi-final in this tournament and potted this good long blue along the way, in a match that had Matt Selk cursing his luck.
Screwing back like this, I'd pot about half of these long blues, so it felt pretty good to see it disappear straight away.
Now for the standard Judd Trump exhibition shot that I still don't think I can play, purely because I can't hit this one hard enough. However, the cue ball's a lot closer to the pink with this one, so I think I've got a chance to get it all the way around the 7 cushions and back for the black.
Unfortunately, however, because the cue ball was so close to the pink, it meant it kept jumping up in the air every time I played the shot, so I had to move it slightly further away so I could actually have a go at playing this one. And in a relatively short space of time, I hit it about as well as I possibly could. However, this wasn't hard enough and my cushions aren't right to go around the 7 cushions, but I was still on the black.
The Dave Gilbert pot down the cushion from earlier was difficult enough, but this one's even more challenging from Judd. And I should have also pointed out that because he played so many good shots in this tournament, all of these shots coming up are now Judd Trump shots. I couldn't space them out anymore.
I got annoyingly close to potting the red on my first attempt, and as it turned out, it really wasn't easy even getting the red close to the pocket, and it took me several more before I got it to even rattle in the jaws again. Potting the red and screwing all the way back into bulk is definitely one of the hardest shots I've had to play in some time. Even when I was trying to play the brown earlier and I couldn't really get enough backspin on it, I was still potting the brown. With this one I was struggling even to get the pot, and I was wondering if it would be the first shot in a long time where I didn't actually manage to play it, but fortunately it went in the end after a number of attempts.
So we've got another one of Judd's shots coming up after we find Shooting Noob, who's in Alfreton in the UK, which handily is right in there.
And this one's incredibly similar to earlier, except there's a lot more angle, so it should be a lot more comfortable for me to get the cue ball in and out of bulk, because I can just use a lot of left-hand side. However, the pot still wasn't easy. And the fact that I had to cut it a lot more than the previous shot probably made it a lot harder. That said, I was still a little bit disappointed to not pick up the angle quick enough. And I also had a little bit of trouble getting the line right. You had to get close to the corner pocket without it going in. But eventually, when I did get the angle right, the cue ball ended up virtually in the same place as Judd.
Another pot down the cushion from Judd, and this one could be even harder because I've got to place my hand somewhere near the side cushion because I'm right-handed, and that's going to mean digging down on the ball, so I might have to cheat a tiny bit. Either way, I'm not sure why I left the hardest shots to the end.
It was incredibly difficult because there was just so many good shots in this tournament that I couldn't really leave any out, and I was really pleased to get this so quickly.
So to the results, and I'm giving Dylan Emery third place because this was an excellent match-winning shot, and the cannon on the brown was just perfect. Speaking of the brown, the way that Judd potted it and got in and out of the bulk for me was just simply unplayable, so he gets second place for this. But first place also goes to Judd with this pot down the cushion. This was probably the best shot of the week, and after this week that's really saying something.
So after all that, what did we learn? Well, Judd Trump was able to go on a 22-match winning streak, eventually losing out to Stephen Maguire. Do you remember what you were doing when you were 12? Well, I bet it wasn't playing Judd Trump in a professional snooker match. People were calling for disciplinary action for Matt Selt after his antics in the Jack Lisowski match, but World Snooker looked the other way. And finally, an equipment update as Shaun Murphy's using 3 cues but no glove. Kyron Wilson's using 1 cue and 1 glove, and so is Anthony McGill, although he's also playing with a carbon fibre cue, or possibly graphite, I'm not really sure. Or they could be exactly the same thing, who knows. If you want to see more recreation videos, have a look at these two. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.